The SummerSlam rewatch journey continues. Hey there, everyone. It's Denise Salcedo. Welcome back to another review. Today, we are chatting SummerSlam 1998. But before we get there, friendly reminder that Bluechew wants to sponsor your SummerSlam. Bluechew is a chewable tablet that improves your sex life. Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody and get Bluechew promo code Denise. Link in the description box below. So, quick overall thoughts on SummerSlam 1998 was right away you notice you are in a different era. You are in the Attitude Era, and you notice that instantly. It's just that look, the way everything looks, the way there's so many fan signs, the way that the crowd is so rowdy. You just see it and you know it. And truthfully, I thought that this show was very easy to watch because there was a lot of good matches. So let's get into some of the highlights. D'Lo Brown defeating Val Venis for the European title. So I'm laughing at this because when I was growing up, I never really got a lot of these sexual innuendos that they used to do with Val Venis. Of course, I got that he was supposed to be this very like sexy type of character that women were like fawning over. I got it. Of course, I was very young at the time when I was seeing this type of stuff. So I didn't really get a lot of it. And it really wasn't until years later that, of course, some things made a little bit more sense. But when you go back and you watch this with an adult mind, it's kind of wild because you start to realize that absolutely everything about the Val Venis character was a sexual innuendo. And I mean, everything from the Titantron, where you're seeing a screwdriver. And I mean, I don't have to paint the picture for you. You guys can watch the Titantron yourself. But everything is about hanky-panky. And even the name, Val Venis. I mean, you literally take out the V and replace it with the P, and you know what that spells. And so it's absolutely everything. However, there was one thing that I didn't even realize was also a sexual innuendo, and that was the money shot. I never knew back then what the money shot meant, and I'm not going to go into details right now because I don't even think YouTube would allow me to talk about those details. But basically, I learned what the money shot means in the adult film industry. There you go. There you go. I found a way to work my way around it. And so that was like kind of the best part about watching this match was really just kind of going, oh, that's why they did that. Because again, 1998, I was like, what, 5, 6 years old? I wasn't going to know about that stuff. I wouldn't learn about that stuff till like a very, very long time, way later on in my life, right? So I thought that was kind of funny. And honestly, when I think about it too, I grew up a PBS kid. I would watch Barney. I would watch Mr. Rogers. I watched the Teletubbies. Now that I think about it, how was I both a PBS kid and watching pro wrestling? This makes no sense whatsoever. But yeah, it's like when you go back and you watch old TV shows and you go, wow, I didn't get that joke as a kid. And now you go back and you watch and you're like, yep, I get it now. I get it. And as for the actual match, it was a horrible finish, guys. So, I mean, this was a pretty lengthy match that wasn't very good. And then it ended terribly because basically they had Val Venis put on this chest protector and D'Lo Brown had been using the chest protector for several months. So Val puts it on and the referee doesn't want him to use it. So Val Venis ends up shoving the referee. So then he gets disqualified for putting his hands on the referee and D'Lo Brown wins this match. But I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, imagine I did go through the entire match and then had to watch that horrible finish. I just thought that it was a terrible way to kick off the show, but whatever. Moving on to our next highlight. Next up, we had the Oddities, which was Giant Silva, Golga, and Kurgan, defeating Kaientai, and this was essentially a handicap match. So there's a little bit of fun facts here. So first of all, I'm sure many of you guys know, but we had Golga here, who was Earthquake, and he lost a bunch of weight, and so I guess they didn't think that he could still be the Earthquake character because he wasn't as big anymore. And here's something interesting. Kurgan, apparently the online rumor with this is the reason why they had him as this dancing guy in a tie-dye shirt as part of the Oddities, was the rumors are supposedly that Don Callis had told Kurgan not to dance, I think, with his wife at a WWE event, some sort of event, right? And because if Vince McMahon saw, he would have made that his character. So I guess Vince McMahon saw, and that's why Kurgan was basically put under this character. All right, so I'm not too sure. This is an online rumor, so take it for however you will. And also in terms of the Oddities, apparently Vince McMahon started the Oddities in hopes of getting Howard Stern on because he had a segment on his show with Oddities, and it was super popular at the time. So he was trying to get Howard Stern on the show because of his popularity, but that never ended up happening. And I guess he thought, oh, they're in New York, he's in New York, maybe he'll be able to appear with the Oddities, but he did not, and this was a nothing match whatsoever. Next up, we have X-Pac versus Jeff Jarrett in a hair versus hair match. And the funniest thing about this is that when you think about it, and you pay close attention to details, Jeff Jarrett kind of gave the ending away to this match in his entrance. And if you're wondering, wait, how? Jeff Jarrett came out with wet hair. He doesn't usually come out with wet hair. He usually comes out with his dry hair. And he came out with wet hair in this match, kind of giving away the ending. And as for X-Pac, this was his last SummerSlam. And if you think about it, we had talked about him back in 1995 against Hakushi. And then he was released in 1996, went to WCW, came back the night after WrestleMania in 1998, where he was the first real big, after Mania debut. And so now here we are. He's in DX and he's doing this match against Jeff Jarrett. And honestly, within the first few minutes of this match is already better than anything we had seen earlier on this card. At this point, X-Pac is 26 years old. And here's some fun facts. So Jerry the King Lawler, who's on commentary calling this match, saying Jeff was a natural blonde, he used to babysit Jeff because he was a top star and business partner with his dad, Jerry Jarrett, in Memphis. As for the finish, Southern Justice came to interfere and they wanted to give Jeff the guitar shot, but instead X-Pac got him and hit him with the guitar and won the match. Then all of Jeff's enemies who had either been attacked by him with the guitar or had their head shaved by Jeff came out, held him down as Sean X-Pac essentially cut his hair. And another kind of random story that I wanted to share about this is that they show a camera shot of Method Man and he's in the crowd at the show. I don't know why, but they have him in the cheap sheets. And I'm like, why is he in the cheap seats? Like, why? But here's a funny story. So I guess it's not too funny, but here's a random story. When I went to the New York Jets game, the one where Aaron Rodgers got hurt. Yeah, I know. Method Man and I were on the same flight back to Los Angeles. I thought that was kind of fun. I was like, oh, hey, it's Method Man. He's on my same flight. Of course, different seats because we're in different tax brackets. But there you go. Just a random little nugget to throw in here. Next up, we had Edge and Sable defeat Marc, Mero, and Jacqueline. This was one of Edge's first storylines. They were trying to portray him as this subculture. So having him appear with Sable was pretty surprising at the time, but it was just really a one-time thing. I thought this match was pretty boring. This was Edge's first pay-per-view ever. So that was really the only thing that was truly notable in this, in my opinion. And then we had a Lion's Den match with Ken Shamrock defeating Owen Hart. Owen and Ken had been feuding for months. Owen turned on him to join the Nation of Domination. So then they had a match in the Hart Dungeon, and now they're going to have this Lion's Den match, which is essentially what we know as the Fight Pit now. And the cool thing about this was that Owen brought in Dan Severn to be his trainer, who in real life is Ken Shamrock's real rival in the UFC, former UFC champion at that time and current NWA World Champion at that time, to train Owen Hart. And this was done inside Madison Square Garden Theater. The unfortunate part, though, here is that this is Owen Hart's last SummerSlam. This is the last time we will be seeing him on a SummerSlam because he passes away in May of 1999. As for the match itself, I did enjoy this for multiple reasons. I liked that it felt like a wrestling fight, and that's really what it was supposed to be. They didn't go full shoot style, but it felt like a fight. Sometimes these matches can feel too shooty or too pro wrestling, but I felt like this was a nice in-between. Like, they're still doing wrestling moves, but are doing it within the context of the structure and the match. Shamrock won with the ankle lock, and fun fact, he is the creator of the ankle lock too. Of course, Kurt Angle popularized it, but Ken was the first to use it. And moving on to the next highlight, we ended up seeing the New Age Outlaws defeat Mankind in a handicap match here to become WWF Tag Team Champions. So Mankind didn't have a partner. He was partners with Kane at the time, but Vince was telling Austin that Kane was in cahoots with the Undertaker, so that made Mankind weary of Kane, and that's why this match ended up being a handicap match. He basically no-showed Mankind. The match itself, really nothing too much to talk about. The New Age Outlaws won, but the big thing to talk about was that afterwards they had thrown Mankind into this dumpster, and inside the dumpster Kane was in there, and then he ended up hitting him with a sledgehammer, so thus betraying Mankind in this moment. Moving on to Triple H defeating The Rock in a ladder match for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. At this point in time, Triple H is 29 years old and The Rock is 26 years old. I liked when Triple H started hitting The Rock with a bunch of chair shots and he has a ladder on top of him. I thought that was kind of cool. And of course, during this match, they played upon an angle that they ran at Sunday Night Heat where The Rock had attacked Triple H's leg from behind. So that played into the story of this match where he kind of kept attacking that leg throughout the entire thing. I thought the finish was pretty fun because we saw Triple H hit a pedigree on The Rock. So then Mark Henry, who was out there, he ended up throwing powder on Triple H to try to blind him. And Chyna, because she was out there with Triple H, ended up hitting The Rock with a low blow. And so this basically allowed Triple H to climb that ladder, get the title, and he gets the win with a huge reaction from the crowd. So I did love the finish, and I thought this match was pretty good too. And I feel like it's one of those matches that I think if you were watching at the time, hit a lot harder. Going back and watching it, I didn't have that same, I wasn't as into it, I think, as maybe people were back then, but it was still a fine match. And now for the main event, we had Stone Cold Steve Austin defeat The Undertaker for the WWF Championship. And I'm just going to start off by saying this. I see some crazy things on Twitter where people say all of this stuff. And I'm just going to say this right now. I never want to hear anyone compare anyone's pop to a Stone Cold Steve Austin pop. Let me just say this right now. No one's pop compares to a Stone Cold Steve Austin pop, and I stand by that. I will die on that hill until I'm proven wrong and someone really truly does get a Stone Cold Steve Austin pop. I loved that they started this match just by like punching each other and going right into the action. What's crazy too is I think The Undertaker is my age in this match as I am right now, which is crazy because you guys know both in TV shows and in wrestling, people always just looked way older back then than they do now. This was a good match. It was in there with Stone Cold Steve Austin. So usually I feel like Undertaker always has really good matches, but when he's in there with good workers, usually if it's someone who's not a good worker, you're not really going to get a great match. But when he's in there with someone good, it usually delivers. One of the big moments in this matchup is when The Undertaker hits a leg drop from the top rope to Austin on the commentary table. And I was kind of blown away that the commentary table didn't even break because he landed it spot on. And that commentary table, like, it stood its ground. Anyways, for the finish, Austin hit Taker with a low blow and a stunner for the win. This was an awesome match. So which match was the very best? I got to give it to The Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I thought that was the best match of the night by a long shot. The worst, I have to give it to the Oddities defeating Kaientai. And then as for the MVP, I got to give it to Triple H for that big reaction that he got when he won the Intercontinental Championship. And then for the rating, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 13. I thought the show was very easy to watch. And again, there were several good matches here. So there you go. That was SummerSlam 1998 review here. I will be back the rest of this month with more reviews as I continue rewatching each and every single SummerSlam. I've been loving reading your guys' comments. I've been reading them all and responding to people. So make sure you guys drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.